Hello, I am Lee Roberts, and this is my presentation for Students First Act of 2011 for Instructional Leadership Class 707. First, we're going to talk about the purpose of the Students First Act. The first one is a fundamental fairness and due process to employees, kind of getting away from that. Tenure allows you to just not have to worry about anything anymore. You can just hand out worksheets kind of deal. They kind of wanted to get away from that. It wanted to give authority over employees back to their employers, taking some of the politics out of it. They wanted to give these employers more ability to allocate personnel resources, put people where they needed them to be, other than instead of places where they were at and just stuck in, being able to move them around a little bit more. They wanted more flexibility for limited educational resources for employers because just about everywhere you go, there's not a whole lot of educational resources. There needed to be more flexibility, giving employers more power, and simplifying administrative personnel changes. So instead of having to post jobs, wait for those postings to end, and then put somebody that you already knew was going to have it into that spot after you waited so long, they can now move the employee, under certain circumstances where it won't take as much time. The big thing that it talks about is tenure, and I think we all know what tenure is. It gives tenure. This act, it gives tenure to primary and secondary teachers who have completed 3 years of service in the same system without receiving a written letter of termination before the end of the last school day of the third year of employment. I know I was under this act. I got hired in, it was after this had been passed. And I know at the end of, or the last school day of my third year of employment, I went into hiding. They couldn't find me around school. Um, uh, I was working, but I went in hiding because I really didn't want to get that letter because I've got one before. A teacher must be hired prior to October 1st to count as a year towards tenure. I got in this situation as well. I got hired in January, um, and that whole semester did not count toward tenure. So it was actually um, I had been working at the school for 4 years when I gained tenure. Teachers in the 2-year post-secondary institutions gain tenure after 6 consecutive semesters, excluding summer, without receiving a written letter of termination within 15 days of the 6th consecutive semester. So it's basically the same thing as high school or primary or secondary teachers, except that they count semesters instead of school years because they can be let go in December a little bit easier because classes are only a semester long. No teacher at a 2-year post-secondary institution may attain tenure in the summer term. So summer term does not count at all. And any semester or year that a teacher works without an official teaching certificate does not count towards tenure. So you must have and hold a official teaching certificate before it to count towards tenure. Also, there are reasons why you are unable to gain, or jobs where you are unable to gain tenure. The chief executive officer is unable to gain tenure, as well as the chief financial officer. Also, the president or vice president of the 2-year institutions cannot gain tenure. Any temporary jobs, of course, cannot gain tenure, as well as substitutes, summer school, and anything that you get supplemental, like coaching positions, things like that. You cannot be a tenured coach, meaning if you have been a baseball coach for 3 years, you cannot. They still have the ability to fire you. You cannot be a tenured baseball coach. It cannot be transferred between systems except for annexation. Like if, say, Russellville City Schools decided to become part of Franklin County Schools. then Franklin County would have to honor those tenured teachers in Russellville City because it had been annexed in. Tenure can be terminated. Some of the reasons why: a justifiable decrease in number of positions, or something we call reduction in force. Just not enough kids to justify having the amount of teachers that you have. Incompetence, meaning you don't know what you're doing. Insubordination, meaning you know what you're doing, but you're doing it wrong on purpose. Neglect of duty, you just don't care. Immorality, which just means you know what you're doing and what you're doing is wrong. Failure to perform duties in a satisfactory manner, meaning you're not doing it well enough. And then the catch-all, other good or just cause, which can it's kind of like that clause in the necessary and proper clause in the Constitution, that just kind of the catch-all that shows that we've got you no matter what. We can throw it in this other good or just cause. Now, you have to remember that you cannot be terminated for political or personal reasons, which you can probably hide in this other good or just cause section, but that should not be a reason for getting terminated with tenure. Tenured teachers who are terminated must be given a written statement with reasons for termination. They just have to be told why. And they have a right to request a hearing, or they can provide evidence. And if the employee is still terminated, they can request an appeal. It's a big, long process. And reduction in force, if they are cut, if they have tenure and they are cut because of this reduction in force, they are not eligible for challenge or review. And if I'm not mistaken, it did not say specifically in this act that I'm aware of, but if I'm not mistaken, if your school is shut down completely because of lack of students, then that would be considered a reduction in force of some type where you could lose your tenured job. Suspensions. Suspensions are an easy way to get around having to terminate tenured teachers. Tenured teachers may be suspended with cause for up to 20 days without losing their job. So they can be suspended for basically a month. Can be with or without pay, depending on the situation. They must be given adequate notice, and they must be allowed to give evidence and argument against why they should be suspended. So they should be able to stand up for themselves. Transfers, another big issue. A teacher may be transferred at any time at the discretion of the employer. If he wants to move a teacher to a different position, then he is able to do that, as long as that teacher is qualified for the position, and it must get approval of the governing board. So a school board, it must pass through a school board to be done. They can be reassigned to any grade, position, or work location, as long as they're qualified and the school board passes it through. Can be within the same school, campus, or instructional facility. So without any issues, as long as they're qualified and have approval of the governing board, they can be transferred within the same school, campus, or instructional facility. They can also be outside the school, campus, or instructional facility if the teacher is qualified, no loss or reduction of compensation except in case of reduction of force, meaning how much they get paid will not go down. Reduction in force, they can reduce your pay just so you can keep your job. Some other important items. Loss of certification is grounds for termination. If you lose your certification because of some kind of conviction, then you can be terminated immediately. But if the conviction is overturned, you can be reinstated and gain your certification back. In that case, teachers should be put in a position that they are qualified for, or they could be just put on paid administrative leave, where they're still getting paid. They're just not in a teaching job at the time. If there is a conviction, the state superintendent or the employer can pursue more legal actions. They can pursue that further if they need to.